that the whole world knows about their existence, and we'd love to share more. But that's something we'd have to do on a more traditional ceremonial way. We'd love to share. Just hit us up. You know, we do private expeditions. You know, whatever you want to do, hit us up. Again, we thank you guys. You know, we wish Canada all the best. We wish Monster Castle Paranormal all the best. We hope we helped. We love you guys.
Ahoo.
Yeah. Wahoo.
Ahoo.
Ahoo. Yeah. All right. And anything anybody else want to add before we fade off in the distance like a spooky campfire?
How much time do we got? Just a couple minutes?
Yeah, that's it. A few minutes. And I'm going to fade the music out.
I have one more quick question. What do you think that the Bigfoot want from us? And want from you guys since they go to your houses?
Well, I think they're very curious. They're very curious, and they just want to be respected. They want to live just like you and I.
I got one quick question.
I'll share one thing with you, all right?
I got one quick
I'll
question.
leave the viewers with something. Now, I believe this, that everybody wants to be the guy who has the answer.
Yeah.
And I don't mean, you know, to poke at anybody. But what I will say is they're waiting till the second coming, and I'll leave that with you guys.
Yeah, yeah, and that answers my question, because I was gonna go back to you said you know where they come from and you know what they are, and we never asked you that.
Ahoo.
Next time maybe we'll
put it together.
Oh, we got another big show just trying to crack to the bottom of that.
Do an expedition down here where explain everything.
Yeah, we can't get all the information at this time, but we appreciate what we did get.
You betcha.
Sure. All right.
Thanks, Big D. Thanks, Barry. Thanks, George.
Thanks, everyone.
Ahoo.
Yeah, I'm going to leave you guys with Monster Truck.
We'll be in touch with you.
And this is called The Giant. All right.
We'll be in touch with you, Wolfman.
Yeah, we'll stay in touch, man.
That's my number.
Oh, there was an unknown number calling here, too, at the same time, eh? You're on the Monster Castle. Hello?
Hello?
Yeah.
Hi.
Hi.
My name's Randy.
Yeah.
I'm from Madison, Wisconsin.
Right on. You got 1 minute.
1 minute.
Yeah.
Can you tell me anything about crop circles?
Crop circles? Yeah. We could do a whole show on crop circles. I actually have seen one in my field once. I used to grow tobacco, and I've actually seen one form, but there's two types. There's natural forming crop circles, and there's ones that are just totally unexplained. And yeah, we're going to get into that on another show.
Oh.
But yeah, we're ending right now. I might do another show in a little while, so you could call back in. I'll do an hour or something of call-ins.
Okay, that'd be sweet.
All right, we'll be back on the air in a little while, guys. Thanks, Thanks for calling in, man, and say goodnight to everyone.
Have a good night, everyone.
All right, there we go.
Take care, man.
Boom!
I
What Babylon tried to offer, Rasta refuse it. What Babylon tried to offer, Rasta refuse it. Yeah, wave up your money, post up your riches. Who will save the man whose soul is wicked, though heart's full of greed. Their words so deceiving, Satan of a wickedness and foolish they receive it. All the weeping souls, them ears never hear it. All them take away from materialism, born of the heathen Babylon words, destroying many man. Them take the herb in hand and still gone. What Babylon tries to offer, Rasta refuse it. What Babylon tries to offer, Rasta refuse it. True intentions of Satan shall not slip past your sight. Babylon, your false word shall be recognized. And for the money they quarrel so viciously, woman selling yourself so seductively. They have thrown away how that's good and right. And Babylon words, destroying many man. Them take the herb in hand or still gone. What Babylon tries to offer, Rasta refuse it. What Babylon tries to offer, Rasta refuse
Monster Castle Radio Show. For the extreme paranormal listener. And here is your host, the Wolfman, Mike. Freaks hang out, alright, yeah! Let's hear some rock and roll, baby, yeah!
All right. Welcome to the Monster Castle Paranormal Radio. Tonight we got psychic and medium Elizabeth April on with us. And I believe we have Dare in the Dark.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Adam,
I'm here.
I think Adam might be here. Adam, are you there?
I'm here, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Right.
Cool. Awesome. That's great. I'm glad you made it, buddy.
Yeah, me too.
Elizabeth, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Welcome. All right.
Thank you.
We are going to dive right into this, I think, because you're a little tired, so I want to start with the heavies.
Yeah, let's get into it.
All right. Go back to the cellar. That's one of my monsters. Igor, get him out of here.
Yes, master, I will take him to the cellar.
Okay, go. Go clean up those bodies. Clean up. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we got monsters here. Oh my gosh. All right. I'm going to start out with the heaviest question ever.
All right.
What is the universal truth?
Okay, yeah, that's, I guess, go hard or go home, right? Well, I mean, there are many universal truths, and with kind of who I am and what I'm able to tap into, I'm able to access all of that. So I go into other dimensions, other realms to channel and gain access to universal truths. And every dimension has its own set of universal truths. And of course, there are many, many universes and there are many multiverses. And I'm able to tap into just this universe. So if I expanded myself beyond this, it'd be a little bit too much. So so I mean, regarding universal truth, I mean, what do you want to explore? Like, what do you want to go into? Because it's infinite, really.
Yeah. How about this one? Were you born with this gift?
Yeah, so I was born with this ability, and I was born with the ability to see energies, auras, spirits, ghosts, things like that. And just through a process of really understanding who I am and understanding what this society really has to offer me, I really started to understand and access the abilities that I have. But I actually shut off those abilities at a very young age because I felt like I wasn't fitting in, I wasn't normal, and I just wanted to be a part of everyone else. And I feel like that's really how society trains us these days. It's all based on a programming of just kind of, the societal norms. So I shut off my abilities when I was about 10 years old to dive into the very physical world of athletics, actually. So I went into pretty much any and all sports you could possibly think of. And And that was really great. And I started to be accepted. I started to become popular. But at a certain point, I still wasn't happy. And I really started to take a look around and question. I started to question the education system, the government. I started to question the authority in my life and religion. And that's when I started to get into things like past life regressions and astral traveling and lucid dreaming and things like that. And it was actually after getting my first ever past life regression at the age of 16 where I started to really open up and realize who I was beyond just who I am in this lifetime. And what I started to experience was the many, many lifetimes where I've been prophets and philosophers and oracles and healers and shamans. And in every single one of these past lifetimes, I was in a position of healing and of spreading as much truth, knowledge, and awakening as possible. And I guess it was at that time, at the age of 16, where I really started to realize who I was in this lifetime and really who I was here to be. And that's when I started my mission of helping others awaken to their truth and who they are and why they're here. And so that's a little bit of a background of my mission and my story and how everything kind of got started for me, and when I started to really dedicate my life and my abilities to serving other people and helping them find their abilities and their connections as well. So
did you have a mentor?
Yeah, so actually I haven't ever had a teacher or a mentor with regards to spirituality. I was quite young, around the age of 8 years old, when I received a very strong message from my spirit guides. And the message was to not do any external research. And for a lot of people, they don't really understand it. But for me, it makes more sense because if I want to know anything regarding universal truth or spirituality, I'm able to access that straight from the source. So in that way, the only perception that I need to deal with is my own. If I were to read information from someone else or be taught by anyone else, a teacher, then essentially I would have to deal with their perception, their translation of the information along with my own. So for me, I received the message at a very young age. Do your own work, do your own research, get the information straight from the source so that it is as pure as possible for people to understand, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Did your parents support you on your journey?
Yeah, so, I mean, my mom is definitely a young soul, you could say. So she's still learning a lot, and but the best thing about her is that she's just full of love. So no matter what I do, as long as I'm happy, she's happy. But it was really actually my dad who is definitely a bit of an older soul who really helped me along my path. And even though he's an engineer, so he's quite analytical.
Well, that's different. My dad's an engineer, and he hates whenever I talk about anything like psychic or UFOs. Or he just cannot stand it, especially the government. If I talk about bad, well, he was a government worker, so.
Yep. Yeah, exactly.
My father is also an engineer, a corrosion expert, actually.
Okay. Wow. See, and it is quite a shocker to have, my father, who's an engineer, be so open to these ideas, but he was actually the first one to take me into that past life regression when I was 16. So he actually put himself through university by doing past life regressions. Now, although he's not as psychic or has the abilities that I have, so I'm not a generational psychic by any means, but he's definitely open-minded, and it's really cool because he opened me up to this world, and once I kind of really started to expand myself, now I'm kind of opening him up in other ways as well. So we've just been kind of feeding off of each other in this lifetime, which has been pretty cool. So it's great to have that support and someone who isn't afraid of the things that I can see or the beings that I speak to.
So what made you then shut it all down at the age of 10? I know I did the same thing around an earlier age. I just thought, this is too weird. No, I'm different than everyone else. I better not do this anymore.
I did the same thing as well.
Yeah. And I find that that's really the curse of light workers, is that we are here, and a lot of us are star seeds, which means that our soul isn't originally from this planet. So when we do come into this planet, we're like, what the hell's going on? This isn't what I'm used to. So, I mean, I almost failed grade 3, actually, because I literally could not comprehend the education system. It was far too confining for my brain. And I find that even children growing up in the education system now are faced with huge consequences when they don't understand or, the system. And they're labeled as ADD and ADHD, and a whole bunch of pharmaceutical drugs are slapped all over them, right?
Ridiculous,
because their brain functions differently. And it's unfortunate that our system is still like that.
Yes, it certainly is.
Yeah. One of our people in the chat room says she's pretty much had a deja vu on this whole conversation.
Wow, that's so cool. That's amazing.
Yeah, and I believe her. That's Tiffany. She's very psychic, too. I was going to ask you something else about your childhood. Would you remember being born?
Okay, so no, I don't remember being born, and actually it's interesting because I don't really remember much up until the age of 10 years old when I actually started shutting off my abilities. A lot of my childhood is blacked out, and the reason being is because I was so in my own world, you could call it, in a different reality. I was so ungrounded and out of my body that I didn't make a conscious memory of a lot of my childhood. And the other aspect of that as well is I did get abducted a lot as a child, and my human brain, my ego, wanted to shut off a lot of that recall and that memory as well, just because it was a little bit traumatic for such a young child to go through.
See, I knew you were abducted. I already have that written down too. So
yeah,
I was going to ask you, what was the abduction like? Do you remember it, or?
Well, when I was a kid, I remember like clips of it, kind of like a dream, but that was more so I was actually being trained and taught in school. And a lot of psychics and light workers out there on this planet have also had very similar experiences as children of being taken on ships and being in a giant room with many other children who are all being taught by an interdimensional being or an alien at the front of the room. And so I've had recall of that, but I also had like a lot of symptoms when I kind of came back into my room, into my body, and it was, bloody noses and blackouts of time and weird sleeping patterns and things like that. And that was fun because it actually helped me progress and be as grounded and as human as I am now, because I got taught all about humanity and what is going on the planet at this time, and not to feel like we are different, but that we are just aiding in the process. But
sounds a lot like our guest last night.
Oh, okay.
When his memories of being abducted were all almost like dreams.
Yep.
But then he would have like witnesses to the craft and stuff, so he knew it was real.
Yeah, and there's actually another moment as well that I did get abducted, and this was my first conscious abduction, you could call it, because I did get abducted a lot as a child, but my first conscious abduction was actually when I was 18, and it's really cool. This is what propelled me into much of my interdimensional communication, or my ET alien communication. That's actually when the walk-in happened during this abduction. And this is very, very clear, very vivid to me. And I was actually out at a meditation retreat called Vipassana for 10 days. And on the second night, On the second night, that's when I got abducted, and I got abducted by a species that I don't actually really affiliate myself to nowadays, which is very interesting. They were kind of just in my predestined contracts at that time to wake me up to kind of the truth of who I really am. And so I pretty much I woke up. Yeah, I woke up and there was this giant white head that was kind of just hovering over me. And I was in kind of like a cabin in the middle of the woods during this meditation retreat. And so I woke up with this giant head over top of me, and I felt like he kind of sprayed something right underneath my nose, maybe my neck, something like that. And what I believe now is that it numbed my vocal cords, so I wasn't able to communicate or speak. And then the next thing I knew, that there was 3 of them. They were tall white, so they're the tall whites. And I had 1 on my left leg and 2, one carrying each of my arms. And they pulled me from my bed and they took me out into the hall. And from the hall, we kind of just got beamed right up to their ship. I don't really remember the transition time, but I remember very clearly being in the hallway, looking at all 3 of them, and then being on their ship, sitting in a metal chair. And in front of me, there was probably about 6 to 8 of them, all standing in front of me. They were quite tall and not very friendly looking. And then beside me, to the right, there was this giant metal machine. It was kind of like this metal cube. And coming from the cube was this cylindrical metal, I guess, component. And the more it would come out, the more it would get thinner and thinner at the end. And then beside the metal machine, there was another tall white being. And I kind of recognized this being as the doctor. Okay, you could call him. And I was fully conscious and aware of all of that. And this metal machine came out to the point where it actually put something in my ear. And I knew right away they put a tracking device in me. And so
Did it hurt?
No, they pretty much numbed me so that I couldn't really feel anything. And there wasn't any blood or anything like that, no signs or symptoms the next day. But when they put me back into my bed, I remember waking up. It was 3:30 on the dot when I woke up. And I knew it had happened, but I was also kind of fighting with myself with it. And it was so funny that the next day I actually stole a butter knife from the kitchen. I put it under my pillow and I said, okay, if they come back, I've got something to defend myself with, right? But obviously they didn't come back, and I probably wouldn't have been able to use that anyway. Thinking of it now, it's kind of silly. But after that, that's when I really started to open up and expand myself. Yes, first of all, the fact that they are real, they do exist. And secondly,
Sorry, that's like trying to attack a biker gang with a bushel of fresh fruit.
Yeah. Absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
What did they look like?
They were super tall. I would say around 8.5 feet tall. They were really skinny, scrawny. They had 2 legs, 2 arms, very similar to a human structure, but just very elongated. And their skin was so pale and almost like a translucent, just really pale and translucent. And then they had, the weirdest part was that they kind of had hair, but they kind of didn't have hair. And it was super white and straggly. And it was coming down, and it was kind of patchy and stuff and super thin. And then they had they did not look very pleasant. And then they had these really tiny beady eyes. And so I went to go see a psychic actually after this. And I said, okay, what's going on? What happened? Why did they take me? And she actually described something that was pretty cool, and this really resonated with me. And she said, they were up there in the ship, right? And they were looking down on Earth. And if you could imagine Earth just being this epitome of a black hole, right? She just it's a sea of darkness when they look down, and all of a sudden they looked down and they saw this shining bright white light, and they were curious, and they took you out of curiosity because you were shining so bright. And they took me and they put a tracking device in my right ear to monitor my vibrational frequency. And she said that she saw the device in my ear and that it was attached to my heart. and it was also attached to my crown chakra. And she actually said that there was a brand that they put on my aura, and she actually drew out a symbol of the brand of what she saw. So they pretty much branded me, and they put this thing on my aura to make sure that like I'm their experiment, only their experiment, and that's it.
Is that what you do? You have that tattooed all over yourself now?
Are those the tattoos on your shoulders?
No, but those are actually, all my tattoos are channeled. So those are all messages from these interdimensional beings as well. And
wow.
the best thing about this abduction, as scary as it was at the time, it opened me up to the fact that I am not one of them, but I am one of something much bigger than who we are here as humans. And that's when I started to converse one-on-one back and forth with my tall gray self, my tall gray side, as well as my mantis being. So even though I'm not a part of the tall whites, not even in the slightest, they were in my predestined contracts to open me up to the possibilities that yes, indeed they exist. And yes, indeed, I am part of one of them, you know? So,
did they have eyelashes? Did they blink? What did they wear?
They weren't wearing anything that I saw, although I have seen many ETs with clothing. And they had very small, like, red eyes. It was, just kind of weird.
They looked mean, or like they were scowling?
I mean, no, there's not really a scowl when it comes to a lot of these interdimensional species, these alien species, because they're all clones of one another, right? So like they communicate and express feeling and thought, not through action by body language, but actually through telepathic communication. So the whole back and forth, everything how I communicate with aliens is telepathy, no matter what the species is. Even if it's a darker species, it's still telepathy, and I can feel that darkness if it's dark, if it's negative. So
there's not a lot of love or affection. Go ahead, Adam.
No, absolutely not.
I was just going to say that it's definitely the most effective way of communication when it comes down to a universal stance.
Absolutely.
Yes, my particular starseed being, it communicated by using telepathy, empathy, and exchanges of knowledge and concepts and of basic soul, all at once. Is very effective.
Absolutely, yeah. It is a universal language. It really is.
Hey, Elizabeth. I have this thing where I keep the affiliation with the number 47. It's always every time I look at the clock, it's something 47. I look at this number. Numbers are given to me, and it says 47 on it everywhere.
Yes.
Do you have any idea what that is?
Yeah, there's actually two things that came up right away when you said that. The first one is that there's something, and I haven't done any research on this or whatever, but there's something about our DNA strand and the number 47, and us actually reaching and unlocking new strands of our DNA so that we actually have a 47-strand DNA or something like that. And it's a very spiritual strand of DNA. So I don't know if any of your listeners have any more information regarding that. But that's DNA and 47 came up first. And then the second thing is that 7 and 4 equal 11. And 11 is a very spiritually high vibrational number that's meant to actually meant to make you be aware of whatever that is, whatever that moment, whatever that situation is. So next time you see 47, just know that that is the number of 11. That is a powerful number.
Yeah, I realize that.
Universal truth, Yeah,
I realized that. I figured that out. It's always either 11s or 47s. Yep. And
there you go.
But I also been told once by a very mystical man that 47 is the magical universal number.
Okay. Yep.
But I didn't know why till now. Now it makes sense. If it has to do with our DNA, that makes sense.
Yes. Yep. Absolutely.
Oh, and that leads to my next question. That's leading right into another question I have here. What do you feel like there is a kind of an awakening happening at this time?
Yes, absolutely. That's a great question. I mean, yeah, like 110%. There is a huge awakening happening at this time. You don't have to be an empath. You don't have to be a psychic. You don't have to be sensitive to realize what's going on this planet at this time. First of all, on one hand, we have the most corruption we've ever seen on this planet. And then on the other hand, we see the most liberation and freedom of speech and spirituality and expression, that we've ever seen before as well. So a lot of things are happening. There is a huge shift that's going on at this time. And what I've channeled, what I've tapped into, there's some pretty heavy shifts on this planet. And the awakening is set to take place. A big shift, anyway, for the awakening is January 2017. But September 2016, November 2016 were 2 huge months for this shifting energy. So if you, as hosts or any of your viewers out there, have been feeling the shifts, and this is more so, it's not like these liberating downloads of love and light. It's actually dealing with all of the energetic baggage that we have not dealt with as humans of the past. So a lot of people have been dealing with moving homes, leaving long-term relationships, leaving long-term jobs, like shifting their entire lives, because what the vibration that they are going into is no longer resonating with the vibration that they've been living. And that's what I've been really helping a lot of people out with at this time, is dealing with the release of past lifetimes, the release of blocks in this lifetime, in order to really gain access to who we will be in the future. And that's all the awakening is. It's a vibrational frequency. It's an energy increase. And everyone is experiencing this, whether you want to have your third eye open or not.
I really agree with you on that.
Yep.
I think that Wolfman's a starseed. What do you think?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. You know what, to be honest, I would say that all 3 of you are starseeds in your own right and with your own species. There are infinite number of species out there, and it's really mind-blowing to see who's all here as a collective. Although we may all just be human on the outside, the deeper you go, the more you realize that we're all hybrids in our own right, which is pretty exciting and pretty cool.
So what race do you think I come from? Or what race was it that tried to contact me?
Okay, how long ago were you contacted?
Okay, I'll explain it to you a little bit. I was at the farm. It was about 2001 when a big fireball came over and was shooting down these blue energy beams. My brother took off. I hid in the ditch. It came right over top of me, and then I had a 2-hour time loss. And,
wow.
And then another time around the same area, it was a few years later, it was about 4 years later, I went for a walk down by this old cemetery following these weird fireflies, which I think were actually fairies. One of them came, I called them out. I said, nature spirits, reveal yourself. And one of them came right up to me. It blew up into this, a red orb about the size of a basketball, kind of a fiery ball, hovered in front of me about 2 feet, 3 feet in front of me. I almost felt like putting my hand into it, but I got scared and I ran away.
Wow. Okay, and how long ago was that?
Well, it was about 2005, 2006.
Okay. Okay, so just 1 second. Let's just see where you come from. Interesting. Okay. Okay, so I'm actually picking up on 2 different species. One of them that your soul is most connected with, okay? I don't know how much you know about other species. And then there's actually one that you are, you're connected with, but more on a contractual basis rather than a soul family basis, if that makes sense. So the one that you're connected with on a soul family basis, so the one that you are, and I actually see you as being this being in the past, is the Anunnaki. Are you familiar or aware of the Anunnaki?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
is that
okay,
the
so
same
they're a
as
very
the Elohim?
ancient civilization.
Is that the same as
Sorry?
the Elohim from the Bible?
Elohim, yes.
Yeah.
Yes and no. Like, really, Elohim is like the representation of any and all, like, interdimensional beings coming to this earth.
Oh, okay.
But at that time when the Bible was written, yes, the Anunnaki were walking around with humans, so they were directly talking about them. But yeah, so yeah, they're pretty much giant humans. They're about 40 to 60 feet tall. They were around with the ancient Egyptians as well, and they helped with a lot of the hieroglyphs and sculptures and pyramids and things like that. So you're really connected to them. You've got a lot of ancient knowledge within you. And the ones that you were actually taken by, the ones that you were abducted with, were the Greys, actually. And they were the good Greys, because I know that there are some not so good Greys out there, but they were the Greys who I'm connected with. So the tall Grey Zetas. And so they took you, and they're actually telling me that they took you to very similar, like check in on you, like check up on you. Not so much to like gain anything that they didn't already have, but just to make sure that you're on your path and that you were kind of like aware of the fact that you're connected to these beings, if that makes sense. It's very similar to how I was abducted, and the reason why many other people are abducted, to wake them up to the possibility that yes, these ET beings are out there, and part of our mission is to open people's eyes to the fact that they do really exist.
Wow. So one of my past lives, I may have helped build the pyramids.
Absolutely, yeah.
I'm curious.
Cool.
What are you able to sense within me?
Okay, yeah. Let's take a look here. 1 second. Okay. Interesting. Okay, so there's definitely, I mean, keep in mind that everyone has multiple different species because time is simultaneous and everything is happening right now. But the one that I see you most connected with is, and this is a very old, very ancient species, and it's very difficult because you can't find too much information on these species online, but they are the tall white Zeta, okay? So I'm a tall gray Zeta. You would be a tall white Zeta. So you are actually an evolutionary step above the tall gray Zeta, okay? And it's really cool.
Correct.
Yes, and this is where you get your very analytical side from, because, and the other thing that they showed me actually while I was tapping into this is you, instead of you relaying information to others, they're telling me that you inscribe information, and that's how, literally the word that they're using is inscription, inscribe.
Oh my God.
I don't know what you...
That is so accurate. He's a writer.
Okay. I was gonna say, do you do any of that? I was gonna say,
oh yeah, we need a ding sound for that.
Yeah, okay.
That's
cool.
fantastic.
Yeah, and the other thing too that they want me to let you be aware of is the fact that as this tall white Zeta, you have inscribed knowledge, and this is not even, I don't even want to call it ancient knowledge, it's universal knowledge, okay? And you've inscribed this, and it looks like a black cube. I want to say maybe 1 foot by 1 foot. It's a black